Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to another Bolt Premium Customer Workshop. Super excited to have you joining us on our session today. My name is William Sayer. I'm the Customer Enablement Lead here at Bolt. I'm really excited to be taking you through another workshop. So for those of you who haven't joined us before, welcome. We spend about an hour going through a lesson agenda, which I'll be going through. I've got some slideshows, and we'll be doing a live build in Bolt as well. And I'll be showing you exactly how you can implement a customer feedback widget into your project. So normally we have Erica from Customer Success joining us here on the call. She's unable to join us today. So I will ask you to be a little bit patient and bear with me. She normally helps answers some of the questions that you have in the comments because I'll be managing this session all by myself. What that means is feel free to put some comments in the questions on the right-hand side if you want, but I will be having some dedicated times as well throughout the build for you to ask questions. So while I'm presenting, I will be focusing on, the agenda of the workshop. And then, as I said, I will take some dedicated times to come back and I'll look through the questions and I'll do my best to answer those while the Bolt project is building out. So for those of you who've been joined us before, welcome back. Feel free, everyone, to introduce yourselves in the comments on the right. So if you're calling in from an interesting part of the world, feel free to say hello. Also, if you want to add any projects that you've been working on, say you've got a live build and you want to get some early beta testers or something, feel free. You can always drop a link to that here in the comments. So it's a great way to grow some community. I can see Derek's joining. Good to see you. Looking forward to the session. So thanks for joining us, Derek, and for everybody else, welcome. Okay, so as I said, we don't have Erica managing this session, so bear with me while I add my screen. It's going to look a bit weird for a second. Here we go. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'll just jump straight over into our workshop. I can also see we've got Raj who's joining us from Toronto. Welcome, Raj. Doing financial operations and field services. Alberto, welcome. Okay, let's jump straight over into our presentation. So let me just double check. Yep, that should be working okay. And here we go. So here's today's workshop. We are going to let users shape your product roadmap. So for a lot of us, if you're working on a big team, maybe this isn't too much of an issue, but if it's just a small group of developers or so, and you don't have a dedicated team to actually manage your customer feedback, then what I'll be showing you today is a great way that you can bring in your customer feedback and use that to help shape your product roadmap. And to do that, we're going to be building a feature voting widget inside your app. So it's a polished, embeddable roadmap and feedback layer for your app, plus an admin view that turns user signal into prioritization. So first of all, we're going to frame the problem. So we're going to understand why feedback fails. Oh, excuse me. Let me just pause this. Here we go. Okay, great. So first of all, we're going to understand why current feedback may fail to reach you in the development team, and then we're going to define some building blocks along the way, some core pieces you need to understand to build this out, and then we're going to build out role-based access control. So you may have heard of us talk about this in previous sessions. This is a really powerful feature to build into your app. It basically means that you can assign members, so when anybody signs up, they can just be a member of your app, but then you as like the admin, you'll have extra privileges, and that's where you'll be able to actually see and feed and see this feedback and then act upon it, recategorize it, add comments to it so that all of the users can see that, giving you special permissions as the administrator. We'll be looking at a few design principles along the way, like non-blocking UX and some other things. And then also we're going to go ahead and build the widget, and then we're going to fine tune it at the end. So one other thing is, in the past, we have had a few minutes at the end for you guys to share your projects. So we should have 5 minutes or so at the end today. So if any of you guys are excited about sharing what you've been building, at the end, I will leave a little bit of time just for you to share what you've been building on. So think about that if that applies to you. Okay, so why feedback loops break and why voting fixes them. So customers want a window into what's coming. Teams want clearer signal on what matters most, and most apps don't really make this clear to their customers. So customers, they really expect to know what's coming. Here's a stat that we've taken from a product plan state of product management back in 2024, and it basically says that a visible roadmap is no longer a nice to have. It's table stakes, and it's expected for any product product that asks users to invest their workflow into it. 73% of B2B users say a public or an in-app roadmap directly influences whether they renew or expand their seat count. So they really want to know what features are coming, especially how easy it is to ship new features these days. It shouldn't be a reason for you not to show some of the product roadmap that's coming. So here's some more stats. So product feedback never reaches the team. So 1 in 26 unhappy customers who actually file a complaint, the other 25 churn quietly. So for churning quietly means they may not renew their subscription with you and you don't understand why. So if you've got some sort of, if you open up that visibility, that channel where they can give feedback to you, and then you can actually say, hey, we're acting on this, then that's going to help you from losing all of those potential customers. 42% of features built end up unused or rarely used by customers. I'm sure you can probably all relate to this, that you spent time and effort building out a feature or maybe an entire app only to find that it wasn't really useful. And it can be wasted time, wasted tokens, and it's great to actually listen to the signal of your customers and what they really want. And then, there's 5 times more likely a request gets prioritized when it's attached to a ranked in-app demand versus like an email thread. So by connecting these demands directly, then it means that, we can prioritize it on our end a lot easier. Do we have any questions so far? No? Okay, great. Here we go. So voting turns vague requests into a ranked signal. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to allow users to actually vote on this roadmap today. We're going to surface the roadmap. So we're going to see what users are planned, what's in progress, what's shipped directly inside the product that they already use. We're going to capture these votes. So a single tap just to users can either write their own or they can upvote other requests. So there's no survey, no friction, because they've already logged into their app. They're already logged in and they use that same account to perform these actions. And then also we're going to be able to collect comments as well. So by understanding the high intent of the users, they who want to explain a why behind their vote. Instead of just saying that they want a feature. And then we're going to rank these by demand as well. We're going to be able to filter by the highest requested features. Okay, so just a quick little, we're going to go over a few little key terms before we start building. So a roadmap widget shows us what's next. So let's think of the roadmap widget as basically the container of everything. So it adds, it's an embeddable surface where we, the developers, will be able to add things inside of this widget that expands, usually a side panel or a modal where they can browse all of the features with this voting panel. And then an embeddable is basically a reusable component that we'll put inside this widget, and then the widget itself, we can basically embed this on a variety of different pages. And it's good to build this once and then link it on all the pages that we think are relevant, rather than building different components for each time. That's one of the beauties of building in React. It's all these kind of modular components where you can just take one component and create several instances on a variety of different pages instead of building it multiple times, meaning that if you change it once, it changes everywhere. Over to the right here, this is an example of how it can look with these upvotes, and then also the status of each of these. Okay, here's an example data schema. We're not going to actually stick hard and fast to this, but this gives you a basic understanding of how it works, where we've got like a roadmap item, we've got like a title and a body, and it carries, basically the meat of it, the bare bones, like the title, the description, and then with that, we've got a status associated to it. So it's like plan, progress, ships, declines, and then votes. So this is when other users decide to upvote it. And then there's like feedback, additional comments as well. Okay, so here's some kind of minor details that we will be focusing on. So, there are kind of weak signals and there are strong signals. So if we look at like page views on a roadmap item, it's hard to tell, whether that actually equates to users wanting it or not. But if we have an authenticated user who's in the product and they actually vote on a specific item, that's a lot stronger of a signal than just the page views of our roadmap. So that's one example of we want our signals to be as clear as possible. And this is another factor that we want to think about when we're building this out. We don't want just simple, anonymous form submissions. If we've actually got, users can attach a vote to a specific feedback item, or they can add comments. Basically, anything where we can get more details out of the users will help us inform our decisions better. Okay, now we're also going to gate the admin view with role-based access. And I briefly touched on this before, but basically to explain the benefits of role-based access control, it basically means you've got, the same app as everybody else, the same URL, but just different ways that you interact. So when you log in the database, in the column, we could have your role column, and most of your users may be members, but then you and other selected people on your team, you can go through and you can change their role to be an admin. And by doing so, that you can basically, the front end can then adjust what it displays to the administrator, and it can show all of this feedback item where you can act, and do specific actions that not everybody should be able to. So by integrating role-based access control, it allows this kind of two-tiered feature set, or more than. You can have more than just two roles. In this example, we'll just be doing two, but you can have multiple different roles, and it really sort of supercharges your app. You don't now need to build two different apps. You can build the same one, but just done in a secure way. Okay. All right. I think we're just about ready to dive in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to wire up that role-based access first. So let's look through our prompt here. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'll copy this. It says add role-based access control. Every user is either an admin or a member. By default, when a user signs up, they should be a member. Later, we'll be adding features based on their role. Roles should be secure. Members should only be upgraded to admin manually via the database. Great. Okay. Now, let me just pause there. I'm going to jump back here. And does anybody have any questions so far? Looking good. Okay. All right. I guess we haven't started building, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I'll jump back over into the project. One sec. Okay. And here we go. Okay, so here is the app that we're going to be working on today. This is a very, very simple yoga tracking app where, we can come in here. We can basically say, if we do 20 minutes of yoga today, we can sort of add the style. How did it feel? We can save our practice, and then it adds that to the database here. It's tracking how much yoga we've done. We can also see on the calendar how much we've done each day. Now, just to give you a little bit of background into this, to build this, it literally was like 2 prompts. So the first thing I did is I came into Google Stitch. I created a design system. For those of you unfamiliar, it's just called Google Stitch, STITCH. You can find it on Google. You can come in, you prompt a design system. I came into edit, click design MD. So just one more time, you click the design system that it builds for you. You then click edit. And then I came into design MD and I copied this, which basically it's created this entire design system for me. And then within Bolt, I pasted that design system, and then I gave it a project requirement document to build out this yoga app. And, I needed to modify it once for the database, basically, making sure that all of the sessions get aggregated. But apart from that, it was a 2-prompt build, and it was able to build this pretty good looking yoga practice site. So, now, let's imagine that we're rolling this out to our users, and we've now got 100 users or 1,000 users who are using it. We, as the admin, we want to be able to basically implement our feedback widget, and we want to start aggregating what are the features that our users want to see next. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me show you kind of the structure of the database. If I come in, you'll notice it's pretty simple. It's just recording the practice sessions per user, and then it's also logging the profiles. So I went ahead and I created a profile here. It's basically showing my display name. So if I sign out and I come in and I want to create a new account, let's just say Tom, and we're going to say tom@gmail.com, and we're just going to add a password. We'll create this account. Oops. And 8 gmail.com. Okay, so
Tom has now created an account. We can see that they're signed in on the bottom. None of the previous logs for the previous account have been logged to Tom, but he should be able to add and save a practice. So there we go. We've saved a 30-minute Vinyasa session and it's there on the calendar. If I look in the database, in profiles, I can now see that Tom has been added to our profiles, which is great. And I've probably also added that recent session here. Great. Now, let's jump back into our workshop. I'm going to grab this prompt and let's now add this in here. So basically add role-based access control, that prompt that we just read over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it into plan mode, and now we're going to build that out. I'm going to let that plan. It's going to look through all the code. It's going to determine the best way to implement this role-based access control. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? I can see we've got, I may be pronouncing your name wrong, but we've got Sujoni from Iceland. Welcome. We've got Rupesh from India. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I can see someone building an entire ERP system for our company. Exciting stuff. We've seen many customers of ours be able to, cancel their hundreds of dollars a month, or for some, thousands of dollars a month subscriptions that they have to ERP systems because they've been able to build it in-house. So good luck with that. It's a big project, but it's definitely doable with Bolt. Let's see. We've got a question here. I saw that you started telling Bolt its role. So full stack dev, is that recommended? I have only focused on the task at hand. Okay, yeah, really good question. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We've actually found, and we made a tutorial video of this that we put on our YouTube just about a week ago, that saying its role of full stack dev is no longer particularly necessary. The models are actually really good at understanding the role. If you are writing, say, like copywriting for something, then explaining the role can actually be useful in like determining the tone that you get out of the voice of the AI agent. But in terms of the performance of the code that it writes, saying full stack dev, is actually a little unnecessary now. Excuse me. The reason why that has come up is because some of you may be familiar with the enhanced prompt feature. So build a task. I'll show you. Tracking app. So if we say build a task tracking app, and we come in here and we hit enhance prompt. So this is something that we're actively rebuilding at the moment. And you'll notice that as soon as we do that enhance prompt, it says you are a software developer tasked with building a comprehensive task tracking app. So the system prompt of this enhance prompt basically tells, it rewrites the prompt so it includes the role here. And this worked great maybe 6 months ago, but with the new models, that is now no longer super necessary to actually say this role. So if you haven't been saying that, no worries, don't feel like you need to. The only reason why I included it here in my prompt was because I had used this enhance prompt feature. But very good question. Okay, so here we are. Let's see. It's got a plan. Let's see what the summary says. So the role lives in a new strongly typed enum column on the profiles, defaulted to member by the signup trigger and protected by row level security. So only direct database access for the admin can promote somebody. This is all looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and we're going to implement this plan. So we should, once we've done that, we should see that we'll have roles added here within profiles. Great. Okay, so this is step one. And the reason why we're doing this is so that as the administrator, as the person who builds the app, or whoever's, the admins who log in, they will be able to now manage the feedback. And they have this almost exclusive view into some of this feedback, and they'll be able to change the status, make exclusive comments on it and things like that. So this is step one, is really sort of building out that secure role-based access control. Okay, so that'll probably take 5 minutes or so to build. Let me see if we have any other questions. Oh, I'm so sorry. I realized I wasn't sharing my screen for the enhance prompt. Let me quickly do that again. Apologies. Here we go. So for the enhance prompt that I was just talking about is, if I come back in here and I say build a task tracking app, now we can basically hit enhance prompt. So this runs this through a system prompt that we have, and it basically rewrites it so that the Bolt agent gets a little bit more information. If you haven't given too much details, it will kind of synthesize that itself. It'll determine what are the core features to include, what are the technical requirements, etc. So if you do get a little lazy with your prompting, or you don't want to actually write all of these things out, you want it to kind of use its best guess, then that's when you can basically use this enhanced prompt. And that's what I was talking about. It's adding that role as you are a software developer in here, which isn't super necessary anymore with these modern models. Okay. I see we have another question. Let's have a look. So do we have inbuilt skills or agents in Bolt we can use for different tasks? Sorry if this is out of context. No, no problem at all. So good question. So inbuilt skills or agents that we can use for different tasks. Okay, very good question. Let me touch on that. So if I jump back into Bolt, where's our project? This one here. So inbuilt agents. Obviously, like we've got the Bolt agent itself. When we do plan mode, that's effectively a similar sort of agent under the hood, but it will only just plan it out, won't write any code. The enhanced prompt, as we just saw, as soon as we put something in there, it becomes available. So that an enhanced prompt is its own kind of micro agent that uses a prompt. So we've kind of got a few throughout Bolt itself. If you're asking about skills, this is something that hasn't actually been launched publicly yet, but it's something we've been working really hard on the back end, and I can give you a sneak peek into it here. So basically, I'm sure some of you have heard about skills. They were initially released by Anthropic, and you can use it inside your Claude desktop app. You can use them for a whole bunch of things. They've kind of been widely adopted by the industry now. And basically, the way a skill works is it uses this really smart system called progressive disclosure, where it will have a short little explanation of what the skill does, and then it has a whole explanation of like how to implement the skill, plus examples as well. And the reason why it uses that really short example at the top is for the context window. It doesn't want to use too much of your context if not necessary. So whenever you ask a question, it'll read through a description of each of these skills, and if it realizes that one of them is relevant to the task at hand, it will then decide to double click on that skill, and then it'll use all of that as context to basically help act on your prompt. So here we are within Bolt. We can see this is our V1 of rolling out skills to you guys. At the moment, we've got a few different skills in here, which we're able to toggle on and off. We'll be adding a whole variety of skills as well. So when this rolls out, probably a week or two, don't quote me on that, but it should be soon. You'll be able to find a whole bunch of skills here. So for example, say you're not particularly good at writing copy for a website, or maybe like the marketing speak, like you don't know the best way to kind of phrase things, then anybody out there on the internet can basically create a skill which they could get a book about marketing, marketing 101. They could synthesize all of those key points of information, or it could be about design, could be anything, into a skill. You can then kind of bring these modules or these packages here inside of Bolt. You'll be able to add your own custom skills. There's a website called skills.sh where you'll be able to find a huge amount of skills. They basically show how many people have installed them as well. You can grab their skills, bring them inside Bolt, and that'll help you with your particular chosen task. Okay, all right, let's jump back in here and let's have a look at our profiles database now. So here we go, profiles, here we go. Great. Okay, so by default, Will has become a member and Tom has also become a member as well. Okay, so that's the first piece of the puzzle. We've now got role-based access control, and we're going to be testing that out in a second. So now that we've got that implemented, I'm going to close this. I'll jump back into our workshop. Great. So here we go. So we've got role-based access control. Now, here are some principles for building out a widget. So first of all, is sometimes it's nice to not interrupt the user flow. They may be in the middle of logging their yoga practice or whatever your app does. You don't want this kind of blocking, obstructive, annoying widget. Sometimes you'll look at a site where you can find, for example, you might be shopping for, I don't know, anything online, some clothes, and they'll have that annoying pop-up where it says 20% off if you give us your email. We don't want our feedback widget to kind of be annoying like that. We want it to be non-blocking, and we don't want it to interrupt their flow. We want, if they are voting for a fill, for somebody else's feedback, we want it to be really easy, just one click to vote. And then comments can be optional and not required as well. Here's some more kind of like, good patterns, some guardrails. So for example, we don't want a person to be able to, double like or double upvote the same skill. Some pretty obvious things here. We don't want it to be anonymous. We want people to be like actually logged in. And like we want to use their authentication to know that it's been verified. So some pretty obvious things here, but also some things that just make that whole experience a little bit better. Okay, now we're ready to add the feedback widget to the dashboard. So let's read through our first prompt. Add an expandable user-facing feedback widget in the bottom right corner. In this widget, users should be able to view all feedback items and also add their own feedback. These feedbacks should have status to indicate their progress throughout the feedback cycle. Notice we haven't actually defined what they are. If you already have planned this out, you can go ahead and define this here, but I'm happy to kind of let the agent determine what these statuses should be. Each item should have a title, short description, vote button with a count, and ability for other users to add comments, 1 vote per user with the option to undo. Great. So let's grab this. I'm going to copy that. Let's jump back into our project. Here we go. And I'm going to paste that in here. Let's put it in plan mode. Now we're going to build that out. Okay, so hopefully with a little bit of luck, it will create the widget down in the bottom right corner. Notice we haven't really made any reference to the admin panel just yet. And that's exactly what our second prompt here will do. This basically says, add a feedback dashboard for admins. Show all feedback items with the ability to rank by vote, count, status, comment count, and view the latest comments in line. Excuse me. Let admins update an item status and merge duplicates, and add admin comment with prioritized visibility to all users in the feedback. Get the route to admins only and implement securely. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be adding that admin dashboard soon. So let's jump back in here and see how this is all going. Okay, the plan's almost done. Let's see what it's saying. So we've got the database schema for the widget. So we're going to create a feedback items table. We've got the data layer, the widget UI as well. So we've got a collapsed state and expanded state, which looks good. Great. No clarifying questions. So let's go ahead and we're going to implement that plan. Great. Let's jump back in here. Let me see if we have any questions. So, yep, no more questions so far. Does anybody have any questions of where we're at? No? Okay, great. I will carry on. So, go. All right, so great. We'll let that build out, and that'll probably take a few minutes or so. Great. And then, yep, once we've done that, we're going to go into, we'll be able to add this second prompt as well. So notice on the left here, this is kind of like how it would look for any of our default users. What we can do in the meantime is we can come into our database. Let's look at, notice that it has already been able to implement the database schema changes. So if I come into profiles, what I'm going to do is, because I'm logged in as Tom, I'm going to change their role. So I'm going to click on here, and you'll notice here that it's actually an enum. So basically, to add a little bit more context to how the database works, is each of these columns can be a specific type. So for example, they're not always just text. Sometimes they can be integers. Sometimes they can be dates. They can be a Boolean, which is a true or false. They can be an enum, which is basically, it's similar to a Boolean where it can only be a variety of different options. A Boolean is only true or false, whereas enum, you actually define what the different values are. It can be more than 2 values. And the benefit of doing something like an enum as opposed to a text value is that as you scale out your database and potentially you've got millions of different rows, to actually store the value of an enum uses a lot less data than using text. So if you think of, the information that goes into writing WILL, there's 26 different letters in the alphabet, plus all the different numbers, plus all the characters as well. There's each of these different values, there's a whole variety of permutations of what they can be. Whereas an enum, if I've only said that there's only one or two different options, you can effectively think of this as like a 0 or a 1. So as you scale out your database to be a lot larger, it means that you're saving space in the database by using an enum as opposed to like a text value. Also, another thing is if I'm coming into the database and I wanted to actually change this, if I tried to type out admin and I made a spelling mistake, it would cause a bug in my system. But by doing an enum, notice that now I can actually, the only two options I have is I can only choose from them. So it's not going to cause any of those problems. Anyway, let's go ahead. And now we've changed this person to, actually, we want Will to be a member and we want Tom. Let's go here and we're going to change Tom to be an admin. Great. So we're going to save that. There we go. Okay. So it looks like the plan's complete. Let's just reload our preview. So very occasionally, sometimes we might just see like a white screen. I only see a white screen. In the preview, please fix. Occasionally, you may run into this error as well. Sometimes it doesn't build the project entirely correctly, and you'll just see a white preview. Just saying something like this will often fix it. Okay, we'll let that build out. Let's also jump back to our presentation. So here's kind of an example of like adding comments and like how it can be useful when it comes to building out your roadmap. So for example, a vote count tells you how many people want you something, but then a comment gives you the why and it gives you the understanding to why you're building that out. So for example, this may be some feedback where it says, right now I export a CXV every Friday and I re-import it on Monday. If multi-workspace landed, I'd cut that workflow entirely. So that's like one example of a feature and helping you understand the context behind it. Or also my ops team is 6 people and we share a single login because switching is painful. And so when we're reading feedback like this, it's really good to kind of identify the pain points and then we can use that to build out our features. Okay, so that's still building out. Let me jump back in. All right, let me see. I've got a few questions here. So Derek, will you post the prompts for us? Yes, good question. So what I'll do is with this, sorry, one sec. With this presentation here is we'll actually leave a link to this. All of these sessions, these workshops are recorded, posted to our YouTube. On our YouTube channel, we have a specific playlist which is called workshops. In there, you'll find, I'll post this by tomorrow, and there you'll see we have a link to this. We've also have a site called workshop.bolt.host where you're able to come to, and basically in here, we have all of our past workshops. So you'll be able to come look through some of the past workshops. For example, this is the one that we had last week. And you'll notice that in here, you're actually able to download some of the slides as well. We have all the tutorials in this site as well. So that's workshops.bolt.host. Okay. All right. So this is still building that out. Cool. So here we go, it's just rendering again. Almost done. Let's jump back. There we go. So yeah, if you ever have that issue where it's just showing a white screen, just a simple prompt like this, and it should fix it. Now, have a look at this. We now have this feedback modal. Before we test that, just to save time, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump back in here. I'm going to grab this second prompt so that we can start building out that admin panel while we're testing it out. So let's go ahead and we're going to paste that in. I'm actually going to plan this out because it requires a little bit of kind of connecting in the back end. We need to understand what their role is. So I don't really want to get this wrong. I always suggest if it's kind of like a high importance item, anything that's based on security, we don't want any of our members to be able to access the admin dashboard. So something like this, I always suggest planning it out first. So while that's planning, let's have a quick look and let's see what is implemented with our feedback. So notice we've got it on the today page. Also, it's been added to the calendar. So look, calendar page as well, insights, timer, profile. Great. So it's been added everywhere. And if we click that, it opens this little feedback modal here. Okay. Obviously, there's no feedback yet. We haven't left any, but we can see all of the different status. Now, let's say dark mode. I would love the ability for you to add dark mode to the site. So this is an example of one of our users, one of their requests. They come in and they hit submit. Great. So we've got this you see this little feedback. This is what's called toast when it just pops up. You saw how it just popped up at the bottom there. Now, we didn't actually specifically request a toast. Usually if you build a project out and you put it in plan mode, then that plan itself will go and think of all these little small details like skeleton loaders or optimistic UI or toast, things like that. And these nice little finishing touches, sort of user experience tweaks that it will naturally add. So that's another good reason to use plan mode. Okay, let's have it's asking us some clarifying questions. Let's see what it says. So basically the summary, this adds a dedicated admin only dashboard with sortable views, inline conversations, status changes, and safe non-destructive merge flow. Great, looks good. So security is enforced on the database layer by row level security and a security definer function so that the root cannot be bypassed or tampered with by the client, which is great. A few quick clarifications. So for merged items, do you want them fully hidden from the end user in the widget or shown as read only with them merged into X? I'm going to say show that they have been merged. Great. Number 2, let's see, should pin be automatic for any admin comment or a separate automatic for any admin comment? Great. And then 3, bulk actions, do you need bulk merge as well? Bulk. Let's say no to that one. Great. So now we're going to turn it off plan mode and we're going to build that out. Great. Now, while that's working, let's check our little feedback modal. Here we go. So notice that I think the blue in the background, it's not very particularly distinct, especially it kind of gets lost a little bit. So we're going to remember that. And if we got time at the end, we're going to make that little kind of like user feedback modification, because I think or the user interface modification, because I think that could be improved. But so far it's looking pretty good because as the user, we've been able to add these. So we can see that dark mode, it's considered open when it's first added. We've got the ability to upvote. So if we click that, we can see it looks like it's added 1 and we'll turn that off. So yeah, we can upvote and we can remove our upvote, and it's also got the comment and who added it as well. Notice that there are no comments on it. And as the person who logged that comment myself, actually, I do have the ability to comment on it. So simply, if I click upvote, it upvotes. If I click on the row itself, it then opens this, and then I can say, I agree. If I was another user, for example, so I can add to that, or you could also say, please add system mode as well. So I'll just fix that up. And so there we go. Some of you are probably familiar with system. When it goes from daytime to nighttime, it kind of automatically changes. So that's an example of, we want to add this request later. So I come back and now we can see that those 2 comments have been logged in here. Now, whenever I do something like this, I like to just double check that the database kind of is connecting everything. So we can see feedback items. We've added 1 row in there, which looks really good. So there we go, dark mode. Now, you'll notice that it's not saying Tom anywhere, but by having this user ID, this is what's linking it to the person who's created it. So if we pay attention, it says the first 4 digits is 4A56. So if I come back in here and then I look at profiles, and then I look at Tom, I can see 4A56. So this is basically linking this user by using this. I guess it's called, like, there are primary keys and foreign keys, and that basically links rows from one database table to another table. And that's how it knows that it's related to Tom. Similarly here in feedback items, so this feedback item, dark mode, notice the ID starts in 5915. So now I come back here and I look into feedback comments. And so the item ID that it happens on for both of these is 5915. So that means that both of these feedback comments have been tied to this specific feedback item. That's basically how these Postgres databases work. If I did do another new feedback item and I put feedback comments on that, then you'll notice that their item ID will be for the new feedback item. Okay, so that, just by kind of validating everything here, we've also got the votes. So no results just in here, but as soon as I click this, I should now be able to see that this feedback vote, that'll increment. There we go. We're up to 1. And the similar sort of thing, we've got that same item ID that it's linked to. Okay, do we have any questions so far? I can see Raj, feedback from the user is received on email. Very good question. So at the moment, you need to configure that manually. So if we jump back into our project, the only way that your users will receive an email from Bolt at the moment is via authentication. And if you come into email, you'll notice that we've got these customized email templates. So if I come in here, I click customize email templates, we have 6 different options. So for example, when a user signs up, you can basically send this confirmation sign up email. If they, for example, want to reset their password, this is a preview of how that email will look. And these by default are sent by the database to your users. You can always, I know this doesn't look particularly good. You can always come into source and you can modify the HTML here. If you don't know how to do that, you can simply ask the Bolt agent to create an on-theme email template for reset password in HTML. Just copy that, paste that in here, and then it'll be formatted a little bit nicer. But these are the only examples of where the Bolt database will typically send emails to your users. If you did want to implement a custom, I'm going to send an email to my users once their feedback has been either read or reviewed or accepted or implemented, probably implemented is the most relevant one, you can use a service like Resend. And basically, I will log in so I can show you basically how Resend works. I don't know what their pricing tiers are. I'm pretty sure you get like 100 emails a day. So you get 3,000 a month from memory last time I was looking at this. And basically, so that's on their free plan. 100 emails a day is pretty good. I really doubt you're going to be implementing 100 feedback items a day. So what you can do is, I've actually done workshops on this in the past, and we do have tutorials on our YouTube. You can go and look. If you search Bolt, how to implement Resend, there will be resources showing you how to do this. And this is where you can programmatically send emails to your users when some of these features get implemented. So very good question. Let's come back in here. So it looks like we're having an issue again. Let's just refresh this. I'm just going to refresh the page. Okay. Okay. Again, I only see a white screen. Please fix. So knowing that that's happened twice in one workshop, I find it's pretty rare, but if it does happen, this is exactly just how to fix it. You see. Let's see if we have another question. So to add further, I have built 30 plus dashboards. This is awesome, Raj, and growing. How would I know that there is a feedback received from the user? Very good question. Okay, so that's exactly what we're implementing right now. So
what I'll do is as soon as the Bolt agent finishes, you'll be able to see
how you know that you've received feedback from the user. One is going into the admin dashboard, which is exactly what we're looking at. And then the second thing is you can, as I said, use resend. So, before I was framing resend in the context of you've implemented feedback and you're letting your user know that it's been implemented and the email is actually being sent to the user. That's one example. But you can also set up resend in a way that when you receive feedback, it will email you directly.
So that's another use case. And basically, Bolt knows how to work
really well with resend. Resend has some really good developer docs. So basically, if you come into the docs, you'll notice that they have this ability to copy like the LLM text, which basically all the context that your agent needs to know to implement resend. So you can actually just come into Bolt, you can prompt it, you could say something like, I would like to implement resend into my site. It's going to ask you for your resend secrets. And then you could say, whenever I receive a feedback item from one of my users, I would like you to notify me via email. Here is my email address. And a prompt like that, you'll be able to send that off. And then Bolt may ask you one or two clarifying questions. As I said, it'll ask you for your resend API key, which is easy to get. You can just come in here and click on API keys and you'll be able to integrate that. Once you've done that, then every time users submit some feedback, then you'll receive that directly in your email. I hope that helps answer the question. Okay, so let's jump back in here. All right, so great, here we are. We're back in our project. So here we go. Just touching over the prompt again that you just asked, Raj. This is something that you'd say. Now, let's test this out. I know we've only got about 10 minutes left, but let's see where we're at. So now we can see it's actually implemented this admin page here. So we can see how many open tickets we have. Dark mode, the one that we just saw, we've got these comments. We can reply as a team. We can say, great idea, will implement. And then we're going to post a pin reply. So now here is our specific team admin dashboard. Now, this is an important part. If I come here back into our database and I go and now Tom, we're now going to change their role-based access control. And we're going to downgrade Tom just to a member. Let's click Save Changes. So now both of these are members. What happens if we refresh this page for Tom? Notice that admin is now no longer visible. So they no longer have admin privileges and they basically act as if they're a normal user. We can see that it now has 3 comments and they can click on that. And that comment that we just posted, it says, great idea, we'll implement. And notice how that we were asked in one of the clarifying questions while we're building this out, should we pin this at the top of the comments? We said yes, and that's exactly what it's done. So whenever the team replies, it's clear that one of the team members replies and that that comment has been pinned to the top. So let's come back out of there. Now let's go ahead and we're going to turn Tom back into an admin. So here we go, admin, save changes, done, looking good. So we'll just refresh the page. And here we go. Here's our admin profile. We can see here's some feedback. Now, let's quickly sign out. I'm going to sign in as another user. Oops. We'll sign in. So this is our other account. This is, I think this is the account called Will. Let's go. We're going to log some feedback. So let's say add a meditation timer. Go. This would be really useful. I would use it every day. Submit. Great. So now that's added. We can see we now have these 2 items in here. Let's sign out. We're going to log back in as Tom. I'm going to sign in. Oh, I think that needs to be 7, 8. There we go. So Tom has logged back in. They're looking at their admin, and here they can see we think that meditation timer has been logged. And there are no comments on it, obviously. And we can again say, this isn't our top priority, but we'll implement this quarter. Reply, and then post a comment like that. So for each of these, we can also change the status. So we're going to say dark mode, we think it's a great idea. We're going to say, okay, we have a little bit of an issue when we're changing the status. So what I like to do is just copy this. Now, as an admin on the feedback console page, I'm trying to change the status of some feedback, but this is the error that I receive. So just like that. And then I paste what we just got in that error toast. I'll just put quotes around it. And then I'm going to send that. So hopefully that should be able to fix it. Now, if we look back in the feedback, the user-facing feedback, we can see we've got our meditation timer. If we click on that, we can see that it's pinned. This isn't our top priority, but we'll implement this quarter. So as a user, they finally feel seen, that all their features, everyone always has these brilliant ideas. I'm sure you've probably experienced it personally, where you've been in an app and you wish they could have something, and their current process may be create a support ticket. You may need to go find their email address, go into your email, like Gmail or whatever, write out an email, explain to them exactly what you're talking about. And this process can just make it really hard. By having this in-app feedback like this, you're now directly seeing, it makes it a lot easier for the user to log it, but then also they can see their feedback and see how you've responded to that directly. Now, there's also think about maybe potentially adding screenshots in here as well. That's something that you're able to do if you're able to just prompt that into the agent. The ability to add screenshots as well is maybe another level of transparency that makes it easier for the user to kind of show what they're talking about. Great. So this is saying that that's fixed. Now let's jump back in here. As soon as that finishes the build, let's just test that all works, and then we should be done. Now, what I'm going to do is in our project, if anybody that helps, great. Thanks, Raj. I'm glad to hear. Now, what I'm going to do is if anybody feels like presenting, I know we've got a smaller group today, so no one feel pressured. But if you'd like the opportunity to present, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the join StreamYard link here in the chat. I'm just going to highlight that. So there we go. If you copy that and you open that up in another browser tab, you should be able to join the session, and I'll be able to invite. This comes on sort of a first arrive, first serve basis. So if anybody wants to join, you've got a minute or two, and feel free to present your project. Let's quickly jump back in, and we're going to have a look at that build. Let's see if that works. So we're going to jump into admin, and we're going to change dark mode. We'll say we're happy with dark mode, so we're already working on it. So in progress. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. It fixed. Now, meditation timer, we're going to say we're going to plan that. So that's planned for the future. And notice that these have actually updated as well. If I change one of these to completed, notice it changes instantly. Great. So what did we say? Meditation, we're going to put that in planned. So also it looks like we've got this merge feature as well. And there's a whole variety of other things you're able to build out with your project with time. But there we go. Basically what we've done today is we've covered basically how role-based access control works, so that you can add your own admin dashboard to manage this feedback item. Obviously you can modify this however's most useful to you. You've learned how to change the role of each of your members within the database, change them from a member into an admin. We've had a quick touch on resend and how you can be notified when some of these users will receive feedback. And then also we've then been able to implement the widget itself. And it's a nice kind of out of the way, it's non-blocking. The users can still go ahead, log their meditation journey. And if they do choose to leave feedback, it's just simple to add in the bottom right there. The one thing I do want to touch on is that with feedback, if you do have lots and lots of users, is that it's easy for this to actually become really large and a little bit unmanageable. So maybe you just want to show the most popular ones in here, or maybe you want to manually go through and clean them up as soon as possible, because you don't want this to be sort of too overwhelming for your users. Great. that basically brings us to the end of the session today. I can see no one wants to present, which is completely fine. I know some of you are probably like in stealth mode and you may not want to share your project just yet until it's ready for the world. But as I was saying before, we've got feel free that you can find a recording of this. Will be on the workshop.bolt.host site, and you'll be able to also find the recording of this on YouTube. Really hope you found this useful. It's a great way, again, to get feedback from your users. And as we saw those stats before, 42% of the features people don't even want. So make sure that you're building features that your users want. And this is a great way to kind of help distill that information. So thanks again for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you find these sessions useful, please go ahead and if you leave us feedback in the Luma event, that's always really helpful for me and the team to help us understand, do we keep putting resources towards this? And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. We do this every Thursday at the same time. On the Luma page as well, you can see all of the events. We've got some listed for the rest of May. We're about to launch all of our June workshops as well, so they'll be on there as well. Stay posted for skills. They'll be coming out super soon. Good luck with all the stuff that you're building with Bolt. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next week. So with that, have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for joining us today. All right. Bye, everyone.